Good afternoon.
Welcome again to the high-level European Union Africa Green Investment Forum. We are getting into the last session, the impact of digitalization in Africa and how it can help to reduce inequalities by promoting long-term sustainable economic growth and development. João Rosário is the moderator of this panel. João, it's up to you now.
Thank you, Paulo. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is João Rosário. I'm a journalist from the Portuguese public station RTP. I'm happy to be the moderator of this panel, New Platforms for Impact, How Digitalization Can Foster a Green Economy in Africa. I thank the speakers and the audience. I'd like to present our speakers for this session, Mr. Carlos Moedas. He's a member of the board of trustees and the Friends of Europe. Mr. Moedas is also co-chair of the Africa-Europe Foundation High-Level Group. Mrs. Chrysoula Zacharopoulou, she's a member of the European Parliament. Mrs. Elizabeth Medu Badang, Senior Vice President, Africa and Indian Ocean and spokesperson, Orange Middle East and Africa. Mrs. Inês Leonarduzzi, CEO of Digital for the Planet. Mrs. Fatoumata Ba, founder and CEO of Django, Senegal. Mrs. Claude Borna, Managing Director and Chief Innovation Officer at SEMCity Development Agency in Benin. Ms. Adjani Costa, Biologist, Advisor to the President of the Republic of Angola and former Minister of Culture, Tourism and Environment. Mr. Daniel Getachew from Gebeya Academy in Ethiopia. And our first speaker is Mr. Carlos Moedas. He's going to make an introduction note. Please, Mr. Moedas, you have the floor.
Hello, good afternoon. Really a great pleasure to be here with you. Very happy to be in this EU Africa Green Investment Forum. I'm representing Friends of Europe, where I am the co-chair of the high-level group of the Africa-Europe Foundation. It is an initiative between Friends of Europe and the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. And what I wanted to do is to set the note, to set the scene for today. We have seen during the pandemic a great acceleration. An acceleration in our lives for the good and for the bad. But we have seen two great accelerations. One in the digital sector and another in the green area. The acceleration in the digital is obvious. I mean, Christine Lagarde the other day spoke about a leapfrogging of 7 years in terms of digital. And in the green, I think that it was a unique moment in our lives. In 70% of the people in the 16 biggest countries today recognize that there's one priority, and that priority is the fight against climate change. But this acceleration, as all accelerations in being an engineer, you need to accelerate not just with the speed, but also with the direction. We have to find a way together, EU and Africa, to find a direction. And the direction is that the digital has to reinforce the green. The digital should protect our democracies. And the digital has to be something that really gets us to be better people, not to substitute people, but to augment people to be better at what we do. And my experience of 5 years at the European Commission was about that, to find amazing people around the world. And I tell you a story, probably one of the most impressive people I've met was a young guy from Uganda called Joshua Okello. And Joshua was a medical student and he decided to leave the medical school because he wanted to help women in the rural areas. And in Uganda, in a lot of the rural areas, the way that you can see in the pregnancy of a woman, if the baby is okay, is through a very old device called the Pinard horn. Imagine a hollow horn, a cone where you just listen to the baby. It takes years for the midwives to get good at it, to train their ear. And he thought, where can I do something else? I'm going to connect a smartphone to the peanut horn. And so instead of having the midwives training for years to listen, if I do that, I can put that peanut horn linked to the smart device and sending the sound to the central hospitals, to the doctors to listen to the baby. And he saved millions, I think, of lives around the world by creating these types of innovation. And a lot of women today in the rural areas can use this new device. And so what I'm talking about today is how can we do this leapfrogging? And Africa was amazing. You leapfrogged us completely in the telecom sector. So what we have to do is to leapfrog also together on the green sector. My experience was to learn from Africa, learn from your researchers, learn from your young people, and that's what we have to do it together, learn from each other, have a peer-to-peer relationship. And that's what we're going to discuss this afternoon here all together. So thank you very much for the opportunity for the introductory remarks. Thank you, João.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos Moedas. It's now time to listen to our speakers. Each one will have 3 minutes to present their thoughts. I ask you all to respect the time, and I ask you all to go directly to your point. Mrs. Chrysoula Zacharopoulou, you have the floor now.
Thank you, João. Dear friends, first of all, I would like to thank the EIB and the Portuguese presidency, and in particular my friend Francisco Andrés, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, for inviting me to participate in this important discussion today. I'm a member of the European Parliament since 2019, and I was elected in France with President Emmanuel Macron list, and I have the honor to be the European Parliament's rapporteur for the new EU-Africa strategy. So after almost 15 months of work, my report was voted last month. And this report should provide food for thought for the redefinition of our partnership with Africa. It looks at all the facets of this partnership, including environmental protection and digital technology as a development tool. Before writing my report, I thought that it was very important to hear the voice of our African friends. So more than 200 consultations were realized in 8 different countries, and I wanted to know their expectation and their vision. This is our partnership and not only the partnership of the European. So one of the main messages that they gave me was that the COVID crisis must push us to make a sustainable recovery. We often hear that crises must be turned into opportunities, an opportunity to do better and an opportunity to rebuild differently. But to do this, the COVID crisis must push us to accelerate the great transition underway, the digital and the green transition. For both transitions, Africa is ready. More than transition, revolutions are being played out on the African continent. So the digital transition is essential to human development. It can be a critical vector of inclusion, provided that new inequalities are not allowed to emerge. This will require assuring that everyone has the right to have access to the internet and to receive adequate training to master digital tools. But beyond the human development, the digitalization of our societies also has the potential to support, to accelerate and expand the green transition tenfold. This is the core of our discussion, and I'm very happy to listen to all of you.
Now let's hear Mrs. Elizabeth Medu Badang. You have some problems now listening to Mrs. Medu Badang.
Okay, that's fine.
Your thoughts, please.
Okay, thank you for having me in this very interesting panel discussion. In Africa, the infrastructure deficit the few, or if any, existing industrial model paradoxically presents a great opportunity for digital to invent new business models and solutions to foster the continent development. Lessons learned from COVID crisis demonstrate how critical digitalization of the society is to ensure continuity in main activities. And telecommunication is proven to be at the heart of that. It's critical than ever. Technology adoption, when you look back, in the past years appears to be faster in Africa than in more developed countries. As an example, the transition from 3G to 4G took only 3 years in the continent compared to 10 years in Europe. And I'm sure the gap will even reduce with new technologies. The percentage of internet users has doubled in the last 5 years, but still about half of the unconnected population still live in the continent. At Orange, and particularly in Middle East and Africa, we have a long-lasting commitment to make the digital world available to all, as it was mentioned. It should be inclusive if we want all the social and economic benefit that we are expecting. This is our central objective, and to that end, we have 3 main drivers that we are focusing on. One is around connectivity, the other one is around device, and the last one around services. We consider that those 3 priorities address the main barriers to digital inclusion today, namely infrastructure, affordability, customer readiness, or content and devices. So that's the reason where we focus our energy today on those areas. In terms of connectivity, we invest about $1 billion to increase coverage, to expand backbone capacity, to increase internet speed to our 131 million customers. In terms of services, we focus on mobile finance services. Maybe we can come, I will come to it later on with more details. We also focus on education, because we really consider that it's paramount to unleash the potential of employment and development, considering the youthness of the population, and other essential services such as energy and health. Clearly, we consider that the opportunities are manifold. We truly believe that the digital can enable Africa to grow faster, train its youth, empower its business owner, and bypass all the existing hurdles. Thank you.
Let's hear now for Madame Ines Leonarduzzi. The floor is yours. We can't hear you. Again, problems to listen to.
Is it better now?
Yeah, now it's perfect.
Thank you very much. I am very pleased and honored to be among you and to be able to participate and give some keys to understand how to build together a better world and a better cohesion between nations and between continents. So I am Ines Leonarduzzi and I live in Paris, and I built an organization named Digital for the Planet, which aim to develop a sustainable digital, because we are not unaware that digital technologies are amazing and enable us to make great progress, but at the same time, they are also very polluting. And we have to find answers to this kind of problems. So this is basically our job. So to make digital more sustainable, but also once we did it, it's to direct digital technology toward common good, inclusion, education, and just actually respond to what technology is about. Technology, since the beginning of humanity, is about improving people comfort of life and a better life. Once we said that, I had the opportunity to travel a lot in Africa in terms about my works and the book I just wrote. I went in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I went to Ghana, also in South Africa. And what I could find is also the damages of digital, basically in Congo for the extraction of the rare earth metal, but also in Ghana, where you have basically all the e-waste of the Europe. And it's quite tragic because you have consequences on the environment and also on people. So I completely agree that digital can allow Africa to go faster. But what I seen in Africa also is the way that young people and young entrepreneurs can find more resilience and more and wiser way to use digital. And as it has been introduced at the beginning of the conference, you have millions of use cases of innovation directed to the population, to women, to education. And this is something I think we missed in Europe, something we didn't see. So the point of vigilance, I'm sure we can learn a lot from Africa and the development this continent will have in terms of technology, because we have the opportunity to think all the value chain from the manufacturing of the electronic apparels to the recycling of the e-waste, and thinking whether the value chain and the way we can use it, not at the detriment of the people, but actually on the contrary for the people. Once I said that, I've said nothing, because we talk about Africa, but let's remember that Africa is above all 54 countries, different countries with different cultures and stakes, different way of thinking, and this diversity have to express itself and to show how we can definitely be more inclusive, but on a very different way, because these differences has to be taken into account. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now let's listen to Madame Fatou Ba.
Thank you, everyone. It's a great pleasure to participate to this high-level conversation. As impact entrepreneur and also impact investor specialized in technology and tech-enabled platforms, I can only testify firsthand about how technology is an extremely powerful way to leapfrog development, as my other fellow panelists already said. And there are three areas where it's extremely important. First is helping, accelerating and massifying the access to essential services for as many Africans as possible. This includes, of course, agriculture, energy, but also education and health. I'm sure you all know about startups, for instance, in Kenya and West Africa that are helping to power thousands of households of people that do not have access to power otherwise. The second big important dimension is how it helps SMEs thrive. And as you know, we have in any African country, SMEs representing between 20 and 40% of the GDP, but most importantly, more than 90% of the job created. And helping them trade better, helping them have a better access to working capital, helping them have a better access to logistics will be key to help also increase their contribution to our development. And the third dimension that we look into with lots of interest and passion is how tech platforms can help create jobs at scale, in particular for women and young people. As you know, we create at the moment 3 million net jobs per year, when our continent needs at least 20 to 30 million net jobs to be able to absorb our demographic growth. So it's really a priority. And when we look at the pandemic context, it has really shown how we can, through technology, but also through a private-public partnership, find innovative solutions. And one example I wanted to share with you today is how amidst the pandemic, the African Union, my own organization, and also some brilliant entrepreneurs joined forces to build what is called the African Medical Supplies Platform that has been online now for only 9 months, but have already managed to source, ship, negotiate prices, and deliver more than 30 million medical supplies, so PPE, test kits, and also medical documents to fight COVID, all in a matter of months. And this is really some interesting testimony of how digital can help find innovative, fast, capital efficient, and sustainable solutions to tackle really any burden we can face. And I think as it stands, more than 31 million items have been delivered in all 55 African countries, because we have also one more member state, which is Occidental Sahara. And I think that even Caribbean countries now can have access to that through the MSP with Jamaica, having been able to procure some test kits. So it's just one example out of so many others. And I'm sure that in the panel, we'll be able to see what are also the challenges and how can the EU and all the other ecosystem players, private or public, help us really build better innovation and better serve our African people. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Fatoumata Bal. Let's hear now Madame Claude Borna from Togo.
Good afternoon. Benin. It's actually from Benin. We're neighbors, but okay. So good afternoon. Delighted to be in this panel today and to take part of this forum. So let me give you a little bit of a background on who I am and what we do. I'm the managing director of Semesiri, which is a government flagship project in Benin. And our aim is really to be the catalyst for a knowledge-based economy, which is at the service of sustainable and inclusive development. So we work on 3 areas. We train young people for jobs of the future. We help facilitate experimentation of innovative solutions. And in doing this, we promote high growth entrepreneurship. So the city itself is being built in a 200 hectares location and includes the campus, research centers, incubators, and as well as commercial facilities and residential facilities. We have started 5 years ago and we're now in a smart campus and we put a strong focus on making sure that the residents of the campus, so the students, the researchers, the entrepreneurs, provide solutions that will help build the city. And this approach for us is really key because it's about using local knowledge, local talent to be the catalyst for developing a smart city, a resilient city, prototyping solutions that meet different challenges from energy efficiency to access to clean water to waste management. So we are currently working with SMEs to prototype different solutions in these areas. And for us, it's very important because we're a public funded project, but we're bridging with academia, we're bridging with the private sector, and we're making sure that innovative entrepreneurship is not just an afterthought, but it's really a key component in the design of a city and addressing issues that urbanization can present when creating this type of project. So what I wanted to say is that we started 5 years ago, and I remember when we were presenting the project to investors or potential partners, they thought, oh, this is ambitious, this is a bit crazy. It felt a bit lonely at the time. And this morning when I listened to the address of the Secretary General of the UN, and he talked about investing in new projects, improving the capacity of young people and women to drive this project, create job creation through green technology. It really felt great that while we know that there are many challenges ahead, it doesn't feel as lonely as it was 5 years ago. And I believe that a key to us succeeding in Africa to drive that green investment, green economy, is doing it together, is sharing best practice, and in collaborating. So I'm very delighted to take part of this panel, because this is what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time to hear now Ms. Jani Costa. She's with us here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this incredible panel. I think through the contributions of every speaker, we have heard on how it is so important to have this digitalization perspective of Africa. But I still am going to add the fact that when we think of technology and when we think of the impact of technology and improved transition to a greener economy, we always go to industrial processes. We always think on production, on transformation, and distribution. We always think on how can we improve technology to decrease the human footprint and increase production. And we distance ourselves from a very important component, which is a social component, people, and the impact of people in the economy and in the environment. When you think of production, transformation, and distribution, the consumer is on the second hand of it. So it's a very backstage type of activities. The consumer very rarely has a role in it. It very rarely understands the whole process. It very rarely understands the upgrades that technology goes through, and thus can't really connect on how to leverage from that technology for improved livelihood. And I think that's where digitalization really comes in, is bringing in that social component for an improved economy on the greener prospects of it. In Africa, obviously, as it has been said several times, we've had an impressive progress of our digital technologies over the past decade. Some countries have a much more robust portfolio on technologies, and you can see they are much faster in doing the transition to a greener economy. Others are a little bit slower, but it's on the slow and steady type of mindset. In Angola, for example, over the past 5 years, we've had an incredible boom in digital startups that have changed the way that we have access to healthcare, that we have access to food, that we have access to transportation, and all other basic services that are so important for the socioeconomic of the country and thus of the continent as well. But there's one aspect that we usually forget, and I think some of the speakers very well put, is that most of Africa is rural. And so sometimes it brings up the question, is it a priority? Is digitalization a priority for communities that lack some of the basic services and goods in their livelihoods? And I think it's important to see it on the other way. Actually, digital technology can bring them these health benefits and this basic service. I think the example with Uganda just expresses that very well. But apart from that, we can also use it as an economic viability to their sustainable sustenance activities. So we can actually try to use and think about using digitalization to use their self-sustenance activities as a way to improve their economic potential and thus make them become as well consumers and have access to these goods. So I think just one of the things to add to all of this incredible conversation is the fact that we have to look at digitalization in a much broader aspect rather than just looking specifically at telecommunication, period. And also because when you say telecommunication, a lot of people just think social media and communication. We have to think beyond that and engage in all different components and strata of society to make sure that it is inclusive, and we're using it not just for the basic service, but also for improved livelihoods of wherever you are, city hub, rural community, Angola, South Africa, wherever you are in Africa.
Thank you, Ms. Jani Costa. Now it's time to listen Daniel, Mr. Daniel Getachew. I hope I said it well. I said your name well. Yes. Mr. Daniel, please.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this amazing event. I think most of the issues were discussed by the speakers, but I'm trying to share my insights, especially on the education aspect, how we can build the youth to become a professionally skilled entrepreneurs and maybe I will try to share my experience on the journey. So when I come to the professional skill field, most graduates, when I was a graduate back in 5-6 years ago, my professional skill in this digital world was not that much enough, and it was really hard sometimes to fit like other developed countries as a skillful professional before I go around to the investors or starting our own startup company. So that was very challenging. What I believe to foster this kind of the economy is to highly inspire the youth, especially in giving a professional skill. That is what I experienced past 4 years ago. I came from Gabaya, so what we do here is I used to be a trainee, then I became a trainer. So by the time when I was a trainee, it was really an eye-opener for us to see how we should get a professional skill, and became or join our dreams, our future dream, and also specialize how we can fit in terms of the technology. There are a lot of technology summits, conference all over Africa, as far as I see, or with my experience. There is about AI, blockchain, IoT, all those technologies. But apart from the events, do we have the right talents on each fields? Do we have the right engineers that does AI, IoT, and all those latest emerging technologies like VR, for example? So maybe focusing on the education, on also on the youth will impact highest way. That's my insight on this one. And on the other thing, on the technology adoption and all those job creation, probably having the right infrastructure in Africa will give us more technology adoption, because if we don't have the right infrastructure in the first place, that will be really challenging to implement all those listed things for African countries. So thankfully, the cooperation between EU and Africa is really working, because a lot of startup investments are also seen, and that will help young talents like me, especially to specialize on this digitalization and maybe making Africa a great place. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for your insights. Now we'll start with the debate, with some questions, and the first one goes to Mrs. Chrysoula Zakharopoulou. What role can the digital economy play in promoting long-term and sustainable economic growth and development across the African continent? And what role can the EU-Africa partnership play?
Thank you. And thank all this beautiful panel. And as you can see, we have a lot of women, no? It is AFRIME, no? I'm very happy to see technology and the woman. This is the future. So during my travel and my consultation in Africa, I was very surprised to see the youth. A youth that is very talented, and a youth that understood that there is a urgency to act, because in Africa we are, you know better than me, you're suffering very badly from the consequences of climate change. Increasing the resilience of the African continent to climate change has a direct impact on living standards, and it's often a question of survival. So it is certain, it is for sure that if Africa has the necessary means, will have the capacity to take the lead. I'm sure for that. And I will say some examples that are about the main example of digital tools that are putting the African continent on the path to green transition. whether it is to help farmers to make their practices more sustainable, to better manage natural resources, to get information relating to the weather, to the market, but also to support the design of more sustainable cities and to meet the challenges of demography and urbanization in Africa, to avoid the urban models that we have in other continents. Another example is to provide greater access to renewable energy in remote or in rural areas. Africa is providing more and more every day that it's a continent of innovation where ideas are born and projects take shape. We, the European, must work hand in hand with you, with Africa. With the Green Deal, Europe has taken a historic step. It has fully committed itself to the path that will lead it to a climate neutrality. In my report, we propose to EU-Africa Green Pact. Dear friends, I'd like to conclude my remarks with two elements that will be decisive in the implementation of our partnership. The first of all, if we want to achieve this ambition, there is a need for financing. And it's urgent to promote innovative instruments and to direct public and private capital towards green investment in Africa. We have an interest in doing so, but we Europeans, I think we also have a responsibility. So we have to support Africa in acquiring the tools to respond to the consequences of climate change, a problem that Africa did not cause. Secondly, the need to invest in human capital, as many of you said, but also to strengthen the human links between us. Our partnership with Africa must bring people together, especially young people. They are asking for it. African youth want to link up with the European youth and to share their experience, their skill, and build common projects. So let's do it. These exchanges will be decisive for the future of our continents. So I'm confident that we're going to work together because we have the ambition. We have also the ambition, and we have also, after the post-COVID crisis, we understood that our partnership can make us stronger together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Zakharopoulou, member of the European Parliament. And now for Mrs. Elizabeth Medu-Badang. The evolution towards the digital African economy is unique in resulting from rapid developments in a number of separate but interdependent technologies. But the base infrastructure remains telecom networks. And infrastructure is still a challenge for most African countries. Is it possible that one day there will be no more way to the market to grow simply because the infrastructure is overloaded, obsolete, or just isn't there? Again, we can't hear you.
Okay, that's fine now. Sorry for that. Yes, this is a very interesting perspective. Can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Okay, it's a very interesting perspective indeed. Infrastructure is key. It's the base on which you will build everything. There have been strong improvement in the last years, I should say. Today, when you look at the digital divide, let's say 60 to 70% of the barrier are not linked to connectivity. So you still have millions of people today who live in areas that are connected, and yet they are not on using the benefit of the internet. So yes, we need to continue to improve the connectivity. We need to continue to improve the speed. Today you have 4G, tomorrow probably 5G. So this is something that we will continue to do everywhere where we can. But the more you go in rural area, and someone mentioned earlier on that we still have half of the population in Africa who lives in rural area. But the more you go to rural area, the more difficult the business case becomes. So there is a need, more importantly, for partnerships between operators, between operators and government, and even investment or development organizations. So this is on the infrastructure side. But above infrastructure, as I mentioned, is just the foundation. Then we need to make sure that people have the knowledge to unleash the potential of this digital economy. So, and training the youth population in Africa is key for us. And in that perspective, we have embarked in an initiative that I would like to share with you. It's what we call the digital centers. We think that this is really powerful in order to enhance digital skills among youth, to foster innovation, to create a kind of innovation ecosystem, to provide the relevant services that people will use and create value out of it. So in those digital centers, today we have, the first one was launched in Tunisia, but we are rolling them out in different countries like Ethiopia, like Cameroon, and our ambition is to roll it out in the 18 countries where we operate. And I know that the model will be also rolled out elsewhere in the world. So for us, these digital centers are really a driver to improve employability of youth and to foster employment. So for us, it's something really key. The other aspect that I may mention is around energy, because we are talking about green energy. We leverage on our network and our mobile payment solution, Orange Money, in order to supply distribution or payment solution for energy access in urban areas or rural areas with solar home system that we are providing. And ourselves, as a company, we are committing to be carbon neutral by 2040. So we really have an approach which we want to be as sustainable as possible, as inclusive as possible, and trying to address the essential needs of the population in order to make their lives easier and the company the society more developed. To bring value to all the stakeholders in the society.
Now, Mrs. Leonarduzzi, in your work, you have been addressing the issue of digital pollution. And in your book, you talk about educating consumers. In the African context, what public policies or legislations could help achieve this goal? We can hear you now. It's not possible to hear you now, to listen to you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think now it's better. Yes, currently with our organization, we are building a large educational program for youth in France first, because we have to educate our people to use digital in a better way, because when they use it wrongly, they not only affect the environment, but also other countries in Africa, in Asia, in America Latina, for example. So we have to teach them this for them to be aware. Otherwise, how do you want people to protect the environment if they do not understand how it works? And I think this is the base. So we are developing this large educational program for 10,000 young people in France, including the 18 years old to from 18 years old, sorry, to 24 years old, because they will be the next active population, and I hope so, the next leaders of tomorrow. So if they can build tomorrow, because they have the rain, and they can build a better society, a better cohesion between countries, because they have the awareness, the skills, the knowledge, but also the tools to do better, it's a great thing. So, and this is the goal: 10,000 people trained in digital ecology by 2023, and 75,000 young trained in Europe by 2026. We definitely want to work with Africa on this program, because we think there will never be better time to share this knowledge and competencies. And something has been said just earlier, and I totally agree with this. We want, us as European, more contact with African youth. We want to know them, and we have to say it because it's dramatic, but we don't know them. We don't have access to them. We don't know how to initiate debate, reflection, common reflection. We don't know how to build bridges on a cultural way, on an economic way, but also on a philosophical way, because all this is necessary to build a real cohesion. If we let only the dialogue only for politics and public officers, we miss something. We miss the voice of democracy. So yes, we try to do something on education, and I think the road is long.
Thank you. Mrs. Fatoumata Ba, innovation is increasingly based on innovative value proposition as opposed to technology only. Why this evolution is particularly relevant in an African context, and is it because the service gap has always been also important?
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more with Mrs. Costa and also Mrs. Badian that the technology potential in Africa goes way beyond technology sectors, right? So it's not only about telecommunications, but it's about looking at all areas where fundamental services are missing, and see if and how technology can be a way to enable access to those services and massifies access to these services. And we have seen countless examples across all value chains, from enabling power, as I shared earlier with M-Kopa, from training developers with Gebeya, from actually having K-12 education provided through apps in Nigeria with ULESAN that was extremely effective during the lockdown, for instance, to logistics. For instance, one of my portfolio companies called Jexport help any SME in Africa export. And when we know that logistics can be up to 75% of the cost of a good in Africa, as opposed to 7% only in the US, you know that this is something that can drive competitiveness and can drive an impact that goes beyond tech, which is just a meme. And basically, this is extremely important also to have in mind, because it's important that people who channel funding do not only fund, technology, let's say, specific sectors, but fund solutions that can enable any kind of sectors to be able to leverage technology to thrive, especially with an impact on offline SMEs, especially with an impact on rural areas, especially in an impact with the underserved population, because they are the one who needs access the most. And I've seen so many great examples, for instance, in Nigeria, where we had an initiative when I was leading the largest e-commerce player in the country that helped actually housewives through a tablet sell to their own family, church, friends, and make some money out of it, so have a really decent job. And there were two outcomes that were quite fascinating. One is we managed to increase the number of people enrolled in the program from 120 to 45,000 people in a matter of two years. And the most exciting thing is when you ask these women what they learned, they don't tell you, oh, I learned to digitize what I do, or I learned tech skills. They tell you, I earned a status in my household because now I'm making twice the median salary than the average Nigerian. And this is what we want to see happening more and more. And I think that also it's important to have in mind that sometimes you don't necessarily will see, the impact focus in an entrepreneur per se, but it's always there, directly or indirectly, in two ways. One is you would see it because he will create jobs in growing his startup or helping more SMEs thrive. And you'd also see it because it is really solving some market failures. And for instance, my fund really specifically look at double bottom line startups that are not only profitable or growing fast, but that actually have an impact on one of the 17 SDGs. So any investment is mapped against one of the 17 SDGs, number one. And we go beyond, we even score the potential to create specifically jobs in 3 areas. One is jobs for women, 2 is jobs for young people, and 3 is actually green jobs.
Thank you. Mrs. Claude Borne, your field of work, of action is education. What are the sectors where you see startups emerging? Do you feel entrepreneurs are conscious of sustainable development implications, and how can you steer them towards sustainable development objectives? It's a long question, I know.
Okay, maybe I will take some examples of what we're seeing. Again, as I said, in our ecosystem, we have students, we have a coding school, we have a digital design school, we also have research centers, and we have entrepreneurs. So if I take one example, for example, the students recently launched a challenge for solutions that could help improve the environment and in which they are, but also on a greater scale. The team that won the challenge had an application to raise awareness on waste sorting on the campus, and then they put a reward mechanism for eco-friendly use of your waste and valorization of your waste. So the coding school is currently working on smart devices to put on the garbage cans, so you can track how fast they're filling up and what type of waste are in the garbage, etc. So that's one initiative that the students have taken on themselves. We weren't even involved. On the other hand, you have in the research center, we have some researchers who are working with startups in the valorization of plastic waste to build bricks for construction materials. And they're currently prototyping that. They're also working on using plastic waste to use for our 3D printers as raw material for the 3D printers. So I'm just giving you all these examples because you can see that different actors who are in these innovative ecosystems are looking at a solution that's waste management from various angles. And that's brilliant. It's not something that we're imposing on them. It's people looking at around them and seeing the issue that is caused by waste, especially in urban areas where you can see it. I mean, every day you're waking up and you're seeing more and more waste, more and more plastic bags, and the laws are passed, but people do not have solutions to address it. So entrepreneurs, student researchers are coming at it with their solutions. And to me, this reminds me of maybe what is in the book, the prosperity paradox, that you drive change when you start looking at a problem. And too often in Africa, we're saying, oh, you know, we're too poor, we don't have enough infrastructure, we're too uneducated, we won't be able to drive that change. And actually, it's looking at those problems that will help develop solutions that are going to scale and that are going to be relevant. It's not copying what's being done in the West that is going to get us there. And so when you're asking me about the sectors that our entrepreneurs or our researchers are focusing on, my answer would be, we're not looking at it from a sector perspective, but more from a problem perspective. Where are the biggest problems that we have? And what are the solutions that are being developed that can address these problems, can be prototyped, and then can scale? And I really see this as a catalyst for making changes that are relevant and that are localized and that are really, I would say, based on innovation made in Africa and not trying to replicate something that is coming from elsewhere and may look sexy, but really has no relevance to our environment.
Thank you. Ms. Giannicosa, it's your turn now. You're a biologist, and your work as a scientist has taken you to remote locations and communities in Angola. Do you think there's an absolute need for some of those communities to be a part of the digital era? And does having a cell phone and a connection to the internet will help these communities develop themselves, or does it carry the risk of losing some of their identities?
That is a very complex question. It sounds like a very simple question, but it's a very complex question, because when you say unique traits and unique characteristics, who is defining that? Do we define what they have the right to use or not that we use? Because we have cell phones and we have connection, but then again, we are saying that they are living in the best way and it should be like this when we are doing the exact opposite. So it's much more complex than defining whether it will change or not. So communication has become, I think, in this modern era of ours, a basic service. It has become a basic good. We have the privilege to be able to communicate across the globe, and that has helped us to improve business, to improve technology, to improve cooperation nationally and internationally. And so I think they have that right too. And it's not up to decide whether they have that right or not, because we are not the deciders of their lives. So as you mentioned, I've worked in some of the remotest areas of Angola. In one particular village, they hadn't had a visitor for 40 years because all of the bridges to connect to those villages were broken. Yet every month, someone from the village would come out, so they would go out in a motorbike walking. Sometimes they would walk a week, 2 weeks, to get to a city hub, to be able to communicate with the rest of the family, to be able to access goods and services they do not have in the area. So they still are mobile for communication. So it's just a simple matter of having it reach easily and thus improve their livelihoods as well. Because when you're walking a week or 2 weeks in a forest with all of the dangers that implies, you are decreasing the level, the condition of livelihood that they have. So I think if you look on that perspective, which is a very social perspective, yes, I do think they also have the right to benefit from that technology. But as I've mentioned before, there's also the prospect of the economic side of things. Technology has also become, fortunately or unfortunately, we can be philosophers on this, but it has also become a major catalyzer and hinderer of development and marketing, or not marketing, and markets. So why not use technology so they can easily reach the markets and the markets can easily reach them, so they improve their economic availability and viability and thus have an improved livelihood as well. And again, that goes beyond looking, oh, the ecology and the environment is so perfect, we should live it like this and have these people live the way they are living now. Because it's not just the environment, it's the people. It's not just the environment and the social, it's the economic. It's a triangle and we can't really separate. I think we've separated enough and it has led where it has led. So it's a little bit more complex than that.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel Getachew, you represent on this panel the future of African economy and more precisely of added value service made in Africa. What aspires you to take a role in this revolution, and what can people do to encourage youth to follow a similar path?
Thank you. So regarding the first question, what inspires me during this revolution is I feel like now technology or digitalization is becoming a necessity rather than like what environment. So this is one way to make the African lives better and maybe put ourselves in top position. So this is, I think, the most important thing the youth can understand. Building a professional skill, like I mentioned previously, is also one helpful tool to identify ourselves and be part of this revolution. So this is, I think, a good answer. And just to encourage the youth to follow similar paths, first we have to be a good example, and then create an opportunity for the rest, especially by training, by giving trainings, by exposing different startups to international community. I'm also a trainer, and also I have a startup company that does virtual reality projects. This is also one way. Our focus is to create or sustain African culture and tourism, and more visible, to make it more visible to the outside world. So this is also one way of becoming an example to the rest of the youth, and by giving them professional skill and trainings, they became part of this journey or this great revolution. And I believe, I think this is the right time for African talents to become one way of growth, especially in the African economy. So for the past years, we've been exporting minerals as an African, but at this point, now we need to export different talents to the world, and like the rest of developed countries does it. So this is what I have. Thank you.
Well, we are almost in the end of our session, yet we have time for one question, and this is one question I would like to hear answers for all our speakers. How can the European Union and the EU Development Cooperation support the emergence of a sustainable African digital economy? This is the question I would like to from what I would like to listen, starting here by you, please.
How we can, I think that this crisis teaches us a lot of things. And I will speak like a doctor now, if, with your permission. We speak a lot the last period about this concept of One Health. That means it is very important, the human health, the animal health, and the systems, the ecosystems. So we have a responsibility towards our environment, because this responsibility reflects to our health. So the European Union, of course, with the new financing system, will invest a lot on digital and also in this green transition. But in the same time, we understood that the health issue, it's also important, the e-health. I was in Rwanda for the campaign of vaccination, and I saw what means also the logistics, what it means to have the digitalization of health. So we have a strong commitment, financing, but also is the period, as many of the speakers said, it is the time of people-to-people connection, because the African, they don't know us, and we don't know them. Let's make things, let's create platforms and to know us better and to go hand in hand.
Thank you, Mrs. Chrysola Zakharopoulou. And the same question to Mrs. Elizabeth Medu-Badang. What can the EU Corporation do to support sustainable African digital economy?
Well, I think there's a lot that EU could do. When it comes to infrastructure, as an example, there are still a lot of needs that are uncovered today. So maybe they should think of orienting their fundings to improve particularly the international backbones or the connection between the different countries. This is one area. The other area, there are a lot of M services that are out there. we mentioned health, we have a lot of solutions on agriculture. But the challenge that we are having today is to scale up the usage of those kind of services. I think the EU could support the increase of the penetration, the education, if I may say so, of the population for them to take advantage of that. There are a lot of small projects that they can support apart from the bilateral agreement that they can have with governments. There are a lot of initiative I think that they could support in this area. It could be agriculture. There are a lot of services that could bring value, but we need to make an effort, like what was done with mobile money, like Orange Money, for example. There should be an effort to educate people in order to scale up those services that will bring value to people. So I think they need to rethink the way they invest to support social economy, if I may say so, the development. So support small initiatives targeted around improving digitalization on infrastructure side, but also on service adoption side.
Thank Madame Inês Leonarduzzi. For a short answer, please. What can the European Union do to support a sustainable African digital economy?
For now, what the EU can do is to foster communication and relation among the youth in Europe and in Africa. We need to have this dialogue between us. We need to build something common because it has been said many times, and I totally agree. We need a convergence of stakes. We need to understand ourselves and each other better. We need to know more about what is sustainability, what is the environment. We are the environment. There is no other thing that we have to protect than us, and us is together. So today the EU have to talk with the other union. We have to be just one globe, one planet, and to understand where are the resources. How can we respect more countries and their resources? How can we manufacture, consume, and recycle better? We have to understand how we have to consume things and do it all together. So I expect from the EU to build some policies that allow us and enable us to have a common dialogue and a common initiative. I think this is what is missing right now. And this is the basis.
So, pose you another question. Technology has been always presented to all of us as something that is clean. But in fact, what you've been saying, that's not true. Is it hard to fight this? I mean, it's a lie, right? Is it hard to fight it?
You mean to fight the way that digital is also polluting?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's quite difficult. On one way, it's that digital pollution is quite invisible. So when you can't see something, our brain are not wired to see dangers that our senses cannot feel. So it's very hard to say, hey, there is a danger, and actually people can't see it. So we have to convoke our intellect, our imagination, and this is what we miss. This is the imagination that we need to build a better world, and also we have to lower our ego. This is what I called in my book ego magina. We have too much ego today. We are just thinking about ourselves, and we have a sad lack of imagination. So yes, my colleague Claude Borna said at the beginning, I feel lonely and I could not, I feel the same way. I felt the same way at the beginning. I was lonely because I was saying something and people were like, but I don't understand what you say. But now it's not true. Now I feel together. I feel we are millions because this is something coming true, and especially the youth. The youth wants a clean digital, clean technology, a clean world. So it's hard, but it's coming.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Inês Lenarduzzi. And now we are going back to this, our last question again with Mrs. Fatoumata Bah. What do you expect from the EU in order to support a sustainable African digital economy? For a short
I think
answer,
we have
please.
said it. Sure, we have said it many times and extremely well in this panel. Africa is probably the place in the world where you have the best innovation when it comes to leveraging technology to leapfrog development, and when you have the most pressing needs to expand access to essential services. Yet, it remains the most underserved area when it comes to access to funding, especially for venture capital, impact, and the intersection of both. For instance, India as an ecosystem has raised 17 times more money when you know that you have the same population, you have the same GDP than Africa, and you have actually more internet users on our continent. And this funding needs to be channeled also in a catalytic way, because you have regions that are underserved, such as Francophone Africa. You have gender that is underserved, such as women. We are the most entrepreneurial woman worldwide in Africa, with 26% total entrepreneurship activity, but we have a $42 billion funding gap. It needs to be channeled to sectors beyond access to energy and financial services that are already attracting commercial capital. And it also has to be channeled earlier in the value chain. We see lots of PE funds, but we need more early stage VC, we need more late stage VC, because the toughest thing about doing a startup is actually starting up.
Thank you. Mrs. Claude Borna, this last question, please, ask you to be short. What can the EU do more to help?
Okay, thank you. I'm actually going to build upon what Fatoumata just said about the toughest thing is starting up. And I think there is a role of being a matchmaker there, which is about matching the people who have the solutions with the people who have the problems, because that's not always happening, and those with the money and those who make the decisions. I think matching those four components is really going to enable more rapid rollout of innovative solutions and maybe looking at a new type of partnership models. And there is one more point I wanted to add very quickly, is I think we also need to work in parallel on the regulatory framework in our countries, so that we can lift some barriers and have like more introduction that is more seamless of innovative financing structures. We're still struggling with things like crowdfunding, long-term financing for SMEs, peer-to-peer lending. We're still struggling with these from a regulatory standpoint, and it would be very interesting to see some traction there and maybe get some best practice from what's happening elsewhere. So that's my final point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Jane Costa.
I think I'm just going to summarize everything that is being said here into one word. I think just hear us. And I think that goes beyond our heads of state. It goes beyond our governments. It goes to our civil society. It goes to our private sector. I think some of the most innovative solutions and the most dynamic solutions are coming from the civil society and the micro-private sector, as it has been said here over and over again. And sometimes it's just about being heard, because there's no such thing as a global solution. There's no such thing, but you do have local solutions that add up to a global mindset and global problem. So I think just hearing us is one of the solutions beyond the political component of things.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Daniel Getachew. Same question.
I think most of the topics I was about to say was mentioned, but just to give regarding the cooperation, we can speak for a weekend. This is a policy for.
Let me ask you, we are not listening very well, so can you speak or louder or...
How about now?
That's much better now.
There was an echo. Okay, so I was saying the African and can more relate with the policy. I feel like there is a policy in Africa. So if we have if we have a way to blur this gap, that is also.
Again, we can't hear you. It's not working. Again, I don't know.
There was some echo.
Well, we're going to have to end here, and because it's not possible to listen to Mr. Getachew, unfortunately, for his last remarks. So this ends this session. We're going to watch now a video that summarizes what we have been discussing here. I thank all our speakers. Please continue with us.
eMBR is a financial service provided by Ethiopian banks and microfinance institutions that allows the people of Ethiopia to conduct financial transactions using their mobile phones.
eMBR gara simotaba yatabare lo medau arba munche tamare university lo duqaray hitafay megas
I decided to become an agent. Customers come to me to use eMBR. I will get extra money from eMBR. Then I will buy a lot of stock for my shop.
I think it's particularly encouraging because it combines the idea of inclusion with technology and opening new markets and new possibilities for people. So this is something that revolutionizes the access to the labor market and to entrepreneurial activity. And this is something that we in Europe sometimes can learn from, as a matter of fact.
It's time now for the closing remarks, and we will start with João Pedro Matos Fernandes, the Minister of Environment and Climate Action of Portugal. Minister, you have the floor.
Muito boa tarde a todas e a todos. É gosto e uma honra participar nesta sessão de...
Good afternoon. It is an honor to be present today for these closing remarks. We have been very consistent in improving the different ecosystems and also helping to the economic growth. We have reduced our emissions and have increased in 60% the economy. Environment and economy are not two different faces of the same coin. They are on the same side. The world needs two things: to improve the environment and to reduce carbon emissions, but also economies have to grow in order to create well-being for all people, for the population. Everything that will improve economy are investments in sustainability. Europe wants to be a partner of Africa in all fields, and all investments in sustainability cannot be transferred from one place to the other. Environment means also territorial constraints. We have nothing to teach. We have everything to share. And all the progresses achieved by Europe and by Portugal in terms of water supply, in terms of sanitation and waste management, also in the terms of renewables, all of that has to be disseminated throughout the world, namely shared with Africa. Because Africa too has attained incredible progress, but it's also a continent where the demographic changes will be felt the most. We know now what we can share, what we can build together, because in this process, we have to look for solutions that are adapted to the needs. What is universal is our commitment towards our planet. We don't want the temperature to increase. We have also to promote the economic development and employment for all. Thank you.
Leão, Minister of State and Finance of Portugal. A quick reminder for those of you who want to stay tuned with these teams. At the end of the forum, we will have breakout sessions, interactive platforms where participants can meet experts, policymakers and entrepreneurs and debate with them some of the topics that we have addressed. Having said this, I'll give you now the Minister of State and Finance of Portugal. João Leão, you have the floor.
É com uma enorme satisfação que participo aqui nesta sessão de encerramento.
It is a pleasure to participate in this closing session. It is part of a partnership between Portugal and the European Investment Bank, where we could achieve important results. We have a long experience in the field of cooperation and sustainable development, and the participation of business in these initiatives with Africa has an important role to play in sharing knowledge, which is key to the ambitious projects, but also in complementing the action of the different actors, namely the financial institutions. We are in a pandemic, and the pandemic had an impact which was manifold in many sectors. But international financial institutions were also attained. And the most affected were the countries of the African continent. These crises have an immediate effect on the price of commodities, but also in the funding of projects. And the IPs have an important role in ensuring the continuity of the funding flows. These institutions are important, but they have to start actions in terms of economic recovery, promoting this connection between the SDGs and the relief from the debt relief. We should help these countries in the long run, being carbon neutral, but also attain short-term goals. And these institutions have an important role. They are responsible for the funding strategies, and they have to be aligned with the Paris Agreement. It should be known that the challenges of the digital transition will remain after the crisis. So this is the moment to bearing in mind these long-term goals. And the conferences organized and the talks organized in these last weeks were very important to show how we can promote development and the debates for the energy transition in São Tomé and Príncipe was also financed by the EIB and the World Bank, creating the conditions that promote the private investment, reducing the importance of the fossil fuel and the transition to renewable energies. We hope that this event will lead to an increase in awareness and also to the identification of a real opportunity. Thank you so much for all your attention.
Is destined to find the best ways in curbing climate change across the world with a focus on Africa. The Portuguese presidency of the Council of the European Union and the European Investment Bank both organized this event. I give you now the Vice President of the European Investment Bank, Ricardo Mourinho Félix.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to address you before the breakout sessions. I'd like to leave you some words. Allow me to start by thanking all of you for joining us today, for sharing your views and path-breaking ideas. Most importantly, for sharing your strong commitment to work together. Many, many thanks to all of you. To our distinguished guest speakers and participants, your expertise, your observations are extremely illuminating. We are grateful for that. I'd like to thank the Portuguese government for their hosting and co-organizing this event, as well as the impressive series of green talks we have done together over the last months. 25 green talks in the past months have paved the way to this main event across 2 continents. In COVID times, that was indeed what we can call a global event, most likely the biggest global event on these matters. Following the following sessions that we have already enjoyed today, I believe allow us to take conclusions on the best way forward for Africa green transition, and these conclusions are starting to take shape. There are no doubts that investment needs across many sectors on Africa are huge, but it's extremely encouraging to listen to institutions, governments, businesses, and to know they are prepared to put their investment where their mouth is. As we say today, to walk the talk. And they must be encouraged to do so and supported with favorable financing conditions and the best technical advice. The IB and our partners stand ready to do this and even more and better. To build back but also forward. To build better but also greener. And this partnership is not about aid or help. This is about working together as partners for development, to stand side by side as a partnership among equals. The EIB is the EU bank. We work closely with the European Commission and with our shareholders, the European Union member states. We work together to ensure that we are supporting long-term development across the globe. We fight together fiercely to meet the sustainable development goals. For us, that means changing substantially our approach. That means increasing the share of climate change mitigation and adaptation in our total funding to at least 50% from 2025 onwards. This means adopting climate measures and considerations into our lending operations to ensure that all our new operations are Paris-aligned from the beginning of 2021, from the beginning of the current year onwards. Our partner countries are also making special efforts in this. And that's it. Yes, we can do it. And it is our duty to do so. The EIB and Portugal recently signed a memorandum of understanding to cooperate in the development of projects in green hydrogen sector. We are committed to act together. We work in the context of the European Hydrogen Strategy, launched by the European Commission in 2020. We are the EU bank, so policy comes first. We are also supporting Portugal Blue, an initiative that provides financing to startups and small businesses through the European Investment Fund, our subsidiary specialized in financing businesses of small and medium enterprises and mid-caps. Through Portugal Blue, we are supporting ocean-focused projects with sustainable development and climate impact. We are working to put more blue into the green transition. We all know from our childhood that green without blue is just yellow. We must never forget it. Blue and clean oceans are critical for a sustainable planet. The European Union is showing climate leadership, and this is key to promote the strategic autonomy of Europe, and an open and multilateral strategic autonomy, not a protectionist strategic autonomy. We can share that expertise going forward and support you on similar projects in Africa and foster a quantum leap in Africa. We need to focus now on providing electricity to all African citizens, in supporting clean electricity generation from the smallest off-grid kits to large-scale wind and solar facilities. This is essential for Africa, and banks and financial institutions such as EIB can foster investment in sound and bankable projects. We can make them irresistibly appealing to private investors. Let's be charming on the green transition. These themes will be explored further in the breakout sessions. One of the most important takeaways from today's discussions is that Africa is the land of opportunities for all. Energy needs are vast. We know this. But we also know the potential, and there is so much potential, it will be more than enough potential. The growing private equity space is helping to fund the startups that will become the employers and economic drivers of tomorrow. Africa's economic future goes hand in hand with the digital revolution. The EIB is supporting projects that extend the digital infrastructure. We are working with our partners, from private equity funds to microfinance institutions, from local and regional commercial banks to development finance institutions, to ensure that micro, small and medium-sized enterprises and mid-caps can invest and prosper. We'll ensure that financing on the continent is inclusive, fair and available to all. To the young, innovative people, to the rural populations, to the women that are entrepreneurs. This is something we'll discuss further in the breakout session shortly. This is another crucial step in Africa's development. It is crystal clear that the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, both the health and economic recovery, will require a global but also coordinated effort. The same applies to fighting the effects of climate change and building resilience across infrastructures and economies. The ways for us to do that are in partnership and cooperation. The seventh in Sustainable Development Goal is the Partnership for the Goals. This gives us a blueprint for the way forward. For us, as the EU Development Bank, this means continuing to work closely with our partners in Africa, putting our finance and sectoral expertise to work to do more and better. For the challenges the continent is facing in line with the EU policy goals, the need for investment on the ground is huge. The only way we can meet them is by taking a multilateral approach. And let me tell you that I feel that it is great to have the US back to the multilateral world. Multilateralism is one of the great achievements of the humankind in the post-war era, an achievement we should preserve and nurture. This is our duty versus the next generations. Multilateral approaches have always informed the EIB activities across the globe. Across the discussions today, we can see that this is a widely shared view, and that is very gratifying. Now it is essential for all of us to walk the talk. The future depends on it. So today, the high-level Green Africa investment, after the 25 green talks across Africa, have brought together thousands of project partners, political and business leaders, policy and technical experts. It is crucial that the shared vision and ambition to scale up green investment continues to build momentum in the months and years ahead. Action needs to be taken so that investment can begin and the green transition unlocked. The Portuguese presidency of the European Union and the EIB are pleased to declare their joint commitment to continue to support Africa and the EU's shared ambitions for sustainable investment, to continue to accelerate the green transition, to continue harnessing Africa's renewable energy potential, to continue to ensure that the latest technology and the best practice is used to create opportunities. This is detailed in the joint declaration of the high-level EU-Africa Green Investment Forum that we are pleased to endorse today. Let me conclude. What we have discussed today is imperative, no less than imperative. And this is the time, because there is no time. So let's do it, and let's do it now. It is a great pleasure to host you today. I thank you very much for your attention. Muito obrigado, and we all stand together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo Mourinho Félix. We have seen recently in Mozambique, Malawi, Ghana, dramatic consequences of climate change. Greed has changed the planet, our greed to exploit the resources of Earth. But the clock is ticking and time is now running against greed. There's little time to save the planet. There's no time for recriminations. In fact, we are running against time. And we can only do it together, learning with each other's Africans, Europeans. It's no more a matter of this or that continent. It's a matter of all humankind. There's only one planet, our planet. And now, on behalf of Prime Minister of Portugal, we welcome again the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Augusto Santos Silva. He will deliver us the message of António Costa. Minister, you have the floor.
Muito obrigado. Thank you. Good afternoon. On behalf of Prime Minister of the Portuguese government, I'd like to thank the participation of you all, the more than 5,000 people who participated in the Green Talks during the last months, which is now being closed on the high-level EU-Africa Green Investment Forum. Let me greet all of those who have participated in this forum and thank you for the work developed that led to the Declaration for a Greener Future in Africa, which is the important outcome of this forum. Let me also thank the participation of all of those who have been following us online, and more than 5,000 people who were following us during these works and talks. This forum is highly relevant because it is of the essence that we understand the challenge ahead of us, fighting climate change, challenge of energy transition, the challenge of finding a more circular economy and more sustainable development. However, this challenge is not a challenge for one single continent. It's not the African challenge or European challenge or any other continents. It is a challenge for mankind as a whole. For us to win the challenge, we must collaborate. And this is the reason why we're here. We are calling upon the need to have a greater cooperation between the EU and Africa in the joint response to the common challenge of transition. This joint approach is an approach between equal partners. Europeans should define their own purposes and objectives, and Europeans have advanced a great deal in defining the objectives, in particular with a political agreement between the European Council, European Commission and European Parliament, which enables the adoption of the European Climate Law, the first ever law that Europe has on climate, which keeps Europe at the forefront of the important decisions on sustainable development and economy decarbonation, but also decisions made by Africans in their own agenda, within their own organizations and their own targets. It's not that some of us impose to others our own choices. It's not some teaching others the right way to go about things. All should follow its own path with its own autonomy and be united as equal partners. This challenge and partnership can't only be the subject for declarations, so that we will be able to progress towards a greener investment to fully take advantage of these opportunities for wealth creation and job creation. For us to be able to attain this goal, we have to act. And we have to find the appropriate incentives to private initiative, to public investment, and the right funding for these investments. We'd like to commend the fact that today we've seen the entering into an agreement, a funding agreement between the EIB and the entities from different European countries, 350 million euros to fund activities in these countries promoting green growth. The messages that we have been receiving across this month, the messages we've received from experts as well as participants during this forum is very straightforward and very clear. It is only possible to have sustainable economic growth with green transition. The future of both societies and economies relies on our ability to do this climate and transition and green transition, and only with some sustainability we can aim at increasing of well-being, job creation and social cohesion. At the end of the day, this corresponds to the priorities of the Portuguese presidency of the European Council. Our motto is very simple, but it's also very straightforward. Let's deliver, not just talk. Of course, talking is very important. Let us not just simply agree on principles and declarations. Of course, they are very relevant, but we have to follow upon our declarations. So it's time to deliver. It's time to deliver and promote a fair, green and digital transition. Taking advantage of the digital transformation to improve our own ability to respond to these issues, investing in social protection and the qualification of the people so that this transition involves all, and also being aware of the essential importance of sustainability when designing and applying our growth strategies. On behalf of the Prime Minister, let me conclude. Thank you all. Let me reiterate that the road we have trod so far is a good demonstration of what we're able to achieve when we assume our common responsibilities and work together. This is what the world is asking. Europe, Africa, and the world at large. We should all assume our responsibilities. We all should be aware of the huge opportunity that green growth represents, so that we can take advantage of this opportunity and let us work together, respecting one another as equal partners and working together to attain common goals. Thank you.
With this, we close the forum. And don't forget, it's up to us all to save our planet. Thank you for being with us.